Today on Locked On Rockies, can we count on the defense to be the ultimate X factor for the Colorado Rockies? Yes, but it's a little more complicated than that.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 18th day of February in the year 2025. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on that Locked On Rockies podcast feed or on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, the best place to be part of the show. Actually, a commenter started off the topic idea for today's show. So if you want to be part of the show, if you got hot takes you want to know, if you got questions, you got comments, you got thoughts on your mind, let me know on the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. It is the best place to engage with the show. I love hearing from you, the fans. I want to know what's on your mind, Rockies fans, as we are getting closer and closer and closer to Rockies baseball in 2025. Let's see when the first game is here. Rockies spring training coming up a week from Friday against the Diamondbacks. And let's get ready for this spring training, as we're going to talk about the defense today. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about the confidence of the Colorado Rockies, as we've heard a couple of preseason press conferences or press interviews, I should say, not conferences, so to speak. But, you know, obviously those are full of the optimism of a new season. But I do like the confidence I'm hearing from the members of the Rockies staff. And I know that doesn't probably mean much, and it's not going to translate much there. I just like the mental state of where the Rockies are at, because I think things could be very different. And we're seeing that with some of these teams in spring training already, when it comes to butting heads or doubts or, big changes that have happened to the team. I think the Rockies at least are going and saying, here's our identity. Here's where we know our strengths are. This is what we're going to do, and we believe in it, and we believe in ourselves. We'll dive into a little bit of that as well in today's show, and get your guys' thoughts on that coming up as well. So let's talk defense. And this comes from the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section here from Mike. Mike says the Rockies are a phenomenal defensive team. Doyle, Tovar, Stallings are all Gold Glove winners. Ryan McMahon is a Gold Glove caliber third baseman. Unfortunately for him, he lives in the same world as Ke'Bryan Hayes. And this is a great point. The defense is going to be the big game changer for the Colorado Rockies, I think, this year. I think on paper right now, if you were to say, what is the Colorado Rockies' biggest strength? The defense would be at the top of the list. Like we said, like Mike mentioned there, 2 Gold Glovers in the lineup here. Ryan McMahon's had an argument at Gold Glove in the past. Estrada has been a solid defender. Mixed in the outfield, of course, you got Brenton Doyle there. If Nolan Jones is the starting left fielder, we know how much of an impact he can be on defense. And right field, we'll see. We'll see what type of defensive impact some of these young guys can have. We'll see what the defensive impact of playing Chris Bryant on the road in right field is. Arguably, the weakest defensive position for the Rockies will be right field. I think no matter who plays there, it's either a young guy who needs to get more time and more experience at the big league level that hasn't proved themselves, or it's Chris Bryant, who, again, in my opinion, is playing a position he should not be playing and putting himself in a situation and being put in a situation where he is not going to be the most successful version of himself. However, out of all the defensive positions, I'm pretty darn confident in the defense of 4 of them, which is it's center, left field, and shortstop, and third base. But here's some interesting, I think, stuff to kind of deflate our optimism a little bit here. I wanted to look at just some defensive metrics for some of for some of the Rockies, not the Gold Glovers, because listen, I don't think I need to spend a lot of time and sit here and saying that Ezequiel Tovar and Brenton Doyle are very good on defense. I don't think that I don't think that's what we need to really talk about here. But I did want to point out something interesting about Ryan McMahon from last season here. Ryan McMahon last year, while he had a career high in assists at 323, he also had his second worst year in terms of errors committed last year. 15 errors committed by Ryan McMahon last year. And that's a huge jump from 20. I'm sorry, that was where he jumped up. That's 2 more errors than 2023, where he had 13. And going back to 2022, he had 17 errors. So we're seeing Ryan McMahon, unfortunately, being committing more and more errors here as time has gone on. Ryan McMahon's fielding percentage last year was also his second. No, I'm sorry, not well. We're going to throw 2020 out again. I know I do that all the time, but it was Ryan McMahon's worst season by fielding percentage, second worst season by fielding percentage. No. Yep. 2022, he had a .953. That was the same year he committed those 17 errors. He had a .966 fielding percentage last year while committing those 15 errors. So, unfortunately, Ryan McMahon's defense isn't performing at the rate that we've expected it to over the past couple of seasons. Again, still someone that's turned 33 double plays, still someone that's been a positive defense, someone that we're confident in playing defense on the left side of the field. This was his all-star season. But it's just another example of we got to worry. Ryan McMahon's just got a little bit of some worrisome trends that just kind of make you hesitate a little bit as we're heading into year 9. The Rockies, if they're going to be successful, they can't be having their one of their leading defenders, one of their big guys, committing errors at the rate that he did. Remember now, like we said, we're talking about 3 straight seasons of double-digit errors, and that hadn't happened. Let's see, it happened with McMahon in 2019 there. But these are some we have seen some moments where these errors can pop up and get in the way a little bit. And I know third base is a tough spot to play, but for the Rockies, all of those free passes, all of those free opportunities are going to be a problem this year. We saw it last year with walks, and of course with errors now too on the defense. That's what's going to put the Rockies in trouble real fast. I'm still confident in Ryan McMahon as a defensive third baseman. I'm no longer fighting the battle of him being the best defensive third baseman in the game, as there was arguments to be in the past, but I'm expecting him to be the leader here on the, be a guy that's able to learn a little bit from his partner there. This now is going into season 3 of McMahon and Tovar on the left side of the field for the Rockies. You had the first year where it was rookie season, so you were going through that and kind of navigating that together. You had the second year where it's still like, what are we getting from Tovar? What does this exactly look like? What's a fluke? What's not? Going into this year now, these two should be way locked in as a really dynamic duo on the left side of the infield here. So, just to put one more little finishing touch here on Ryan McMahon. I'm getting these stats from Baseball Reference, and so if I'm seeing this right, both of these are bold and italicized. So Ryan McMahon, if I'm reading this correctly, led the league in assists and errors committed last year. So that's something I think that let me double check that. Most errors by a third baseman 2024 season. Yeah. Okay. So the let's see here. Here we go. No, those are teams. I don't want teams. Players. Errors. Yep. Ryan McMahon was tied with 2 other players last year. Matt Chapman of the Giants and Isaac Paredes of the who was he playing with last year? He's with the Astros now. Was he with the Astros last year? No, he's with the White Sox last year. So he was with the White Sox and Tampa Bay. that's where he was committing those errors. So at third base, Ryan McMahon was one of the, committed some of the highest amount of errors last year. That has to be addressed. Ryan McMahon cannot be a liability like that on defense. Not with this pitching staff, not with these other guys, not with these other players on the team. What about another player there that was on the Rockies last year who does have some great possibilities, who showed some great stuff at first base defensively, especially when it came to, diving plays, making some good stuff? Michael Toglia. Michael Toglia, though, was the led the league in errors at first base, at least the National League, in errors at first base, and he didn't even play in all of the games last year. And this happened in 107 games last year that Toglia committed those errors. And again, first season coming in, I'm not bashing Michael Toglia here. I'm just saying these are some big warning signs when it comes to the Rockies defense that I am confident in. I love this infield defense. I do think that this infield is going to be very good at what the Rockies have been very good at before. Turning double plays, getting double plays. That is something that they're going to have to be successful with when we're talking about this mix with the pitching staff. And I'm going to get into those pitcher staffs, a couple of stats that I think will correlate with this defense as well here in just a sec. But I just wanted to put those little bit of worrisome, track record type of stuff on our minds here as we're getting ready. But all that said, I still do believe that this is a team that has elite defense. And, Estrada last year didn't really do anything crazy in terms of he only committed 2 errors last year in 94. What was it? 94 games that he played. In that time, he got 264 assists. He turned to 63 double plays. I'm not too worried about, I don't think Estrada is necessarily going to be, a Gold Glover at second base next year for the Rockies, but I certainly think he's going to be able to fit in with what this Rockies team does. Turn double plays, be a solid infield defensive team, and help your pitching staff out. That's going to be, it's a staff that's going to be thrown to contact a lot, or the ball is going to be in play for the Rockies here, certainly. So the defense is going to be their biggest strength next year, but it's not without its flaws. It's not without its worrisome, moments here. This is something where the Rockies are going to have to improve there. Their 2 corner basemen have to make sure that they're going to eliminate and limit those errors this year. The no free passes. That's the same for walks from the pitching staff and errors and not getting the job done on defense. The Rockies do not have a single chance to let any time that those happen, which they will. Walks and errors are going to happen. I know it's impossible to say that the Rockies have to completely eliminate those from their game, but limiting those, improving on those, which we need to see from Toglia and McMahon there. Like we said, league leaders last year in errors committed at their positions. They need to improve. And if they improve in that area, especially errors and because it's crazy to think that Ryan McMahon did all of that while also committing those errors. Again, 323 assists. He led the league in that last year. He turned 33 double plays last year. This is a guy that clearly we know it makes a total impact on the field. But that's 15 errors. That's 15 opportunities that teams got. And I know that errors sometimes will get assigned for ticky-tacky things. But the Rockies count on the defense of Ryan McMahon, right? That's what we talk about a lot with him. So we can't ignore those things. The defense is the biggest strength, but it certainly has a long way to go to be where we really need it to be. Because if it all comes together the way it can be, the Rockies infield defense and the Rockies defense in general is going to be very, very good. It's got work to do, and it's going to take work to get there, but there is a chance that this Rockies defense is the X factor game changer for the team coming up. I want to dive into some stuff that doesn't just relate to the defensive players here. I want to talk a little bit about the things that got in the way of the pitching staff and what might be an issue for the pitching staff again going forward. That'll completely negate anything that the defense does, really. Coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes SelectQuote. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you are in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage of up to $5 million. No medical exam required, and it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at SelectQuote.com/locked-on. Go to SelectQuote.com/locked-on to get started. That's SelectQuote.com/locked-on. SelectQuote. They shop. You save. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot around here because that is what we do. Talking Rockies baseball, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show and you can fire off your Rockies hot takes. All right. We are talking about the defense today. We're talking about how we're confident in the defense, right? I do think that the defense is going to be the biggest strength, but there are a couple of things that are worrisome with the Rockies. And if errors are going to be a thing that are going to be a problem, they're not going to pair well with some of the stuff that can be a problem for the Colorado Rockies when it comes to their pitching staff here. I wanted to bring up some key points here for the Rockies that they're going to have to deal with this year. It doesn't matter what the defense does, but if the Rockies pitching staff continues to be giving up 22 home runs from Kyle Freeland, if it's another season of 20 home runs given up by Ryan Feltner, if it's another season of 30 home runs, being a league leader in home runs from Austin Gomber, and flying back even to when they were back healthy, 30 home runs given up by German Marquez in his healthy season there in 2022, his last healthy season. And home runs that, Senza's been pretty good at limiting it. He at the beginning of his career, 19, 10, 18, we've seen that there, but kind of lowering it there. And I know it only 12 home runs given up in 2021, 2022 gave up the 9 there. In those 19 starts for him there. But the problem is, we've seen smaller samples, quick appearances in 23 and 24, giving up 3 home runs each. I mean, these are 2 games. This is 5 total games that German has pitched over the last 2 years. And I understand the health stuff. I totally get it. But in that time, 6 home runs in 5 games. That's or 6 home runs in 2 games. That's not gonna work. I'm sorry. No, 6 home runs in 5 games. That ain't going to fly, mixed with the fact that walks can be an issue for these teams. So the pitchers aren't going to be able to use their defense if they can't back it up with performing on their end to keep the ball in the yard. The Rockies can't be a team that gives up the long ball as much as they do. And I know that's going to sound hard, but that plain and simple. It's one of the toughest challenges that they're going to face this year. The good defense, Gold Glovers on defense, can't do much about robbing home runs, especially at home when the ball's going to be flying out of the yard. So they're going to have to negate this. They're going to have to be able to get back to where they're successful at, and they're going to have to induce those ground balls here. But the problem is, Kyle Freeland's ground ball percentage is starting to tick down and down and down. The line drive and the hard hit is up. Last year for Kyle Freeland, or the last 3 seasons, the hard hit percentage is in the 40s. The ground ball percentage dipped from 42.2% in 22 down to 39.7% in 2024, basically mirroring his 2023 season. And that's a big deal. The weak contact ground ball double play is one of Kyle Freeland's specialties. It's one of the biggest things that he can do. It's one of the most impactful things that he can do. Ryan Feltner, he saw the ground ball percentage mostly stay the same over 23 and 2024. And obviously Feltner's career doesn't have the same amount of innings pitched and such like that. So it's a little weird. But when you look at it, that 43.8% ground ball percentage, but 37% hard hit percentage, the second highest of his career so far. You sit there and you kind of pull your collar a little bit and you say, well, okay, like it's a little tough there, but certainly the upside's very much possible, and with Feltner taking a bigger role here. Let's go to Austin Gomber here now. With this, the hard hit percentage the last two seasons has been in the 40s. Ground ball percentage, was solidly sitting in the 40s until last season, 37.5. There for that ground ball percentage. And then, so those are the three starters that are coming in after what we've seen the last few years. But we go for German Marquez, who it's a little bit different when, he's someone that really works on getting those strikeouts there and can also get that weak contact. Still floating in that high, in those high ground ball percentages as well, as high as 50%, 51% in his all-star season there, 48% in his most recent full season worth of work. 47% on that hard hit percentage. And I know he didn't have much, but in those brief appearances that we have seen him in 23 and 24, in 2023, the hard hit percentage for him over 20 innings pitched was 60.3%. That means over half of the balls that were hit hard, which spells doom, which is not a good sign for the Rockies. You can't be having the opposition can't be hitting the ball hard, and they can't be hitting the ball in the air. That's going to be a recipe for disaster at Coors Field. So certainly a warning trend of worry there for German Marquez, but it also kind of highlights, just again, reminds you the impact of what a good German Marquez, or good, solid, competitive German Marquez means for the Rockies. It certainly is a total game changer for the rotation. And then, Senzatella, his whole again, he's a big ground ball guy too. But again, the big concern here is that the hard hit percentage has been in the 40s. Ground ball percentage still hanging pretty well there. In some of these things, the last couple of years, obviously the sample size not looking so good, but in the last full season's worth of work for him or close to it, that ground ball percentage still sitting in close to the 50s. So if the Rockies pitchers can keep the ball on the ground and try to and hopefully reverse some of these trends that we're seeing of hard hit increase, ground ball decrease, that means that the Rockies defense is going to be able to back them up. But it ain't going to matter. It doesn't matter who the Rockies have on defense. They could put the best defensive team that they've ever had out on the field. But if the ball's leaving the yard, that's a problem, Let me just get home allowed. Sorry, I should have pulled this staff up before. But MLB stat leaders here last year. Who gave up the most home runs last year? The Colorado Rockies gave up 221 home runs. In that same time, when you're talking about the amount of walks, the Rockies, top 5 worst team in walks last year, 563. So terrible combo there already. When you're adding those two things together, it mixed with, we're talking about the giving up a lot of home runs. Now you're one of a team that is prone to giving up walks, mixed with the fact that your defense last year had people committing errors at league leading worst at some of your positions. So it's no surprise when you look at some of these stats, when you dive in and you see how out of hand last year got. But these are the type of trends and things that the Rockies have to start reversing. These are the type of things that you can notice as a Rockies fan and look at and start seeing. These will tell the signs, tell the tale. This is stuff to watch at spring. Is German able to get weak contact even during spring training? What does he look like right now? What does Senza look like right now? What does this version of Kyle Freeland look like right now, who's trying to continue to navigate, I think, this stage of his career, the second half of his career? What type of pitcher is he right now? So, to kind of put a bow on everything, I am excited about the Rockies defense, and I do believe that this Rockies defense is on paper the best part about this team. but with some concerning trends there from some key players, mixed with some trends on the pitching staff that we've been noticing, and just the overall talent level of the pitching staff. And this goes into the bullpen too, a lot of the uncertainty there. It does create uncertainty there. A great defense can't do anything about home runs, walks, can't do anything about that. And pitchers can't do anything about errors, about not turning double plays, about not getting the job done on defense. The best way for the Rockies will shock people, and the Rockies will surprise people if their pitching staff can get those ground balls and limit that hard hit percentage, mixed with the Rockies defense takes the steps forward that they need to from some of these players, and some of the players get back to where they need to get. It will be very interesting to see what impacts Estrada and Tolia have on defense this year, because I am very confident in year 3 of the Tovar McMahon left side of the infield. Let's talk about confidence at spring training and read some YouTube comments to close out the show. We're going to do that coming up next. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I wanted to shout out Matt Gree again and a couple of my Mario Baseball buddies for popping in and enjoying the Mario Baseball Rockies comparison there from Friday. It's definitely a great time. Shout outs to Matt Gree, Nooch, and Hell's Hero there, long-standing members of the Mario Baseball scene. So shout outs to them. And again, shout outs to Mike for giving us the idea for today's episode. But Hold My Beer says, I feel like Doyle has the potential to be equal to a prime Kevin Kiermaier. His lights out defense and speed on the bases will balance out the average bat. And that's the other thing too. I do think that Brenton Doyle being a great hitter or having great stretches of hitting is icing on the cake. I think him being if he's an average and leans into that good hitter mixed with that defense, I think that means Brenton Doyle can be a special player. However, I still want Brenton Doyle to continue at the rate he is. I want him to hit 20. I want him 2020. You know, I want that to be the norm for him. Brenton Doyle going to be an exciting player to watch this year, a thrilling player to watch this year, no matter what the Rockies' record is. Brenton Doyle, I think, is going to be entertaining no matter what. And so I wanted to close out here with just a word on what we're hearing from players. And obviously this isn't that crazy. The Rockies are going into camp confident. But I like hearing this. I heard a little clip from Chris Bryant today kind of talking about where he's at and how he's healthy and kind of, he's like, I know where we're at. I know no one's talking about it. That's okay. We're here to work. We're here to put this in. And honestly, I like that, Chris. I think that's the way that Chris Bryant should be handling it. It's like, hey, I'm owning up to, I know that the contract hasn't gone well. Only thing I can do is show up and put in the work and do the work and be confident in me and my guys. And I'm confident in me and my guys. And that's the type of stuff I like to hear. I like hearing that German Marquez has come to camp, not only healthy, but ecstatic, ready to go in the zone. I think there is an energy, I think, around this camp this spring that it's time to change the narrative. It being a professional ball player has its perks when you get to enjoy the spoils of that. But I do believe that this is a team that wants to show people that they aren't they aren't just this basement dwelling team that's got nothing going on. No matter what you want to say about the team and that stuff, these guys don't want to be last place. These guys don't want to lose 100 games. And just from the early type of vibe stuff, and I know it's what everybody says about camp, and I know it's spring training, and before even spring training starts is when the hopium is at the highest. But I do think that there is a small little bit of buzz around this camp about handling business, getting the job done, changing the narrative, because I think a lot of players are facing a situation in which another dud season for the Rockies doesn't help out anybody. Doesn't help German in the free agency portal if he chooses to go to a different team or help him get to a contender at the trade deadline. It doesn't help Bud Black, maybe get another year or cement his legacy because Bud Black is now really fascinating history here was on track and had an argument at best Rockies manager ever. But now in the second half of his career, it's like, well, you also got the first 100 lost seasons back to back. So what will this season mean for his legacy? What will this season mean for sticking with certain players, sticking with certain pitchers, the development of certain players? This is a situation, I think, in which the Rockies are facing a season where they don't need to prove it in the sense of make the playoffs or whatever. They just need to prove it to themselves and prove it to everyone else that they can compete, that they can handle their business. But they're going to have to do it against the best, because the NL West has an argument to be the best division in baseball again, and the Rockies are going to have to compete with that and a tough schedule. And it's going to take great defense, and it's going to take great pitching, and it's going to take great offense to do it. The Rockies are going to have to put it all together, and we'll see how that goes this year. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go check out our pal Sully over on Locked On MLB. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, because it is a busy, busy time in Colorado sports, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.